Well, all right. Hello. Super excited to be here with you today for a live stream on a different day than what we have done it in the past. And the reason why I've done all of that is because, well, this is just the time that I had to be able to do it. Uh, this has been a crazy week. And but that's a good thing, busy is good. So hope everybody is doing well. I wanted to talk today. Well, I wanted to talk about my house. Hey, Jerry Goebel. And the reason why I want to talk about my house is because the whole idea is so that you know what you can look forward to on this channel. I know very little about this house that is almost 200 years old. It will be 200 years old in a few years, 5 years, actually. At least from what I understand, it'll be 200 years old in 2030. But I don't know for certain. And the interesting thing about what we're going to talk about here today is a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about, I don't know for absolute certain. I know what I've been told. I know what I've seen. I know, the documentation that I've seen and stuff like that. But I don't know what is real and what is just stories that I've been told. So as we go through this, I'll kind of let you know what I know as fact and what I do not know as fact. But in case this is your first time visiting this channel, my channel is about the restoration, renovation, remodelization of my house in Northeast North Carolina. One of the main reasons why I'm doing this channel is, for one, I love making videos. I've been in the YouTube game for a long time, 14 years now, 13 years now. It is my hobby, is making videos. So this is a really nice little outlet for me to be able to do this. But also because I know so little about my house, this is why I'm documenting all of this. As we go on through the story, it'll make a little bit more sense as to why I think it's important to document all of this. So I want to go through with you a brief history, as brief as I'm capable of doing it. And then I will go through the list with you of things that need to be done with this house. Some of the things are things that have to be done or else there's going to be problems. And some are things that I just want to do because it'll make me feel good. It'll make me happy to be able to do these things. But the history of the house, or the little that I know about the history of this house, there's two conflicting dates about this property. I actually have, I'm going to show you, I have this book, which I'm not going to show you the name of the book. I had actually somebody that is in the chat right now email me about this, like, hey, why are you trying to be secretive about where you live? Because, you can find out the name of the town that you live in if you search enough, blah, blah, blah. My reasoning for it is I have already, in the 3 years that my wife and I have lived in this house, we've already had weird things happen. I don't mean paranormal stuff. There's been none of that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people coming to our house that are not invited. That for whatever reason, there's this weird thing that people that are viewers of the channel, for some reason, believe they're entitled to be able to come and have a visit. I get emails multiple times per week What are your hours? Are you open to the public? Like we have a museum or something like that. And I've had scenarios happen where people have shown up and it was very uncomfortable. And I don't like that. I'm somebody that is documenting all of this. And yes, it's true. If you dig deep enough, if you are that weirdo, not the person in the chat that asked me about this, I'm not calling him a weirdo, but I'm saying if you're that kind of a person that for whatever reason, because you're a follower of a YouTube channel, you believe that you should be able to go and visit. If you dig deep enough, you can find it, but I hope that you don't, because this is my home. I run a business here, yes, but this is my home. And I don't want visitors that were not invited. Even if you're the biggest follower, I don't like saying fan because that's just weird, but the number one contributor, and I don't care. This is not something that you are allowed to visit. Again, not the person who asked me about that in email. That's to anybody that says that. But anyway, enough of that. That's why I try to kind of keep things as secret as they're capable of being. I've looked up documentation of my house myself online, so it's not incredibly difficult to do, but it is what it is. John, why, if you're so worried about that, why would you show pictures of your house? Doesn't that make it easier to find? Well, you know what? Yeah, it does. But I was actually told this by a very prominent YouTuber a long time ago. We were talking about this very topic, the secrecy and trying to stay not anonymous, but trying to stay to where you don't have people pulling into your driveway, or even weirder things than that have happened here. And he said, if people are going to look hard enough, they're going to find it no matter what you do. You're not going to be able to keep yourself completely hidden. You are a public figure, even though this particular channel is very small. We're just getting started with it. It's like, you're putting yourself out there. And so there's nothing you can do to stop that. If somebody is determined, they're going to find it. Sorry. I've got cats running across my window. I've got a UPS man pulling up. It's chaos here. It's ridiculous. So it's hard to not be distracted. So, hopefully nobody does look up where we live. Why would you do that? But people have done it, and I'm not going to share the stories because, I don't want people to get any ideas. So back to what we were trying to talk about earlier, the conflicting dates. There's two dates. It's either 1830 or 1845 was the construction of this house. This very history book that I just showed you, this is not an official, Encyclopedia Britannica history. This is a book that was made about the history of the county that I live in. And so, not everything is 100% accurate, maybe, or maybe it is. I don't know. But the weird thing is there's not really a lot of ways to look up history of this place. Unfortunately, the last surviving member of the family that founded this property is buried in my backyard. And apparently, I didn't learn this until recently, he didn't have any children, which is why he sold the property. And so, the history of that family died with him. And so anybody that would know any history about this place is, I don't know where they are. There's no family that I can learn that from. But I do have a really good resource, which we're going to talk about, that has taught me a lot about this house. And then I had a second one, but he unfortunately passed. So anyway, this house was either built in 1830 or 1845. This book says 1830. There is I don't want to say that, never mind. But there is things on the property that also lead me to believe that this was 1830. But this was originally the central complex, if you will, for a very large farm of over 1,000 acres. That is the original founders, patriarch, whatever you want to call him. That's a bad word these days, but the founder of the property, which again, I don't want to give names because then it makes it really easy to figure out where we're at. They founded the farm for sure in 1830, but whether the house was built in 1830 or 1845, we don't know. So let's just say it was between 1830 and 1845. That's when the original house was built. Now I want to show you, I have some pictures that I'm going to share. And the reason why I'm going to show these pictures is, again, to make it make sense about the house. But there's something very particular. I want to pull this one up first. When I pull this photo up, this has been shown on the channel. I'd like to ask y'all in the chat if you could tell me, are you able to see my mouse? I don't think you can. As I'm rotating my mouse around the screen right here, are you able to see that? Probably not. But if you can, let me know, because that's going to make things a little bit easier as I explain things. I even made my cursor really big so that you'd be able to see it even better, but I don't know if it shows up. And I know that there is a bit of a delay here. So you don't see the cursor. Okay. Thank you, Audra. I thought I had it set up to where you could, but oh well, you can't. So when you look at this, there's some easy ways to describe this without being able to show you the cursor. So when you see this, this is obviously the front of the house, and it makes it look big, but I promise you it's not. It's not as big a house as it might look. But the original house is what you see in this photograph that is between the two fireplaces. Those two fireplaces would have been on the original ends of the house, and it was a 2 or possibly 4 room house. No basement. It is on a crawl space, and that's the original house. And the original facade would have looked very different. The porch was not there. The Palladian window above the door was also not there. It would have been probably a single window up there with then the 4 windows on the sides. Now, the interesting thing is the windows that you see in the center of the house, again, between the fireplaces, not the center one right above the door that has the arch on the top. That's like early 1900s. But the 4 that are on the 4 corners, those 4 windows are still in this house to this day. We still have the original windows from when the house was built. Those, again, at least I think those are original. And I've had people beg me not to do anything with those windows, and I don't plan to. So it was originally built, like, again, between the 2 fireplaces. Now, if you look to the left of your screen, to the left of the left fireplace, the window that's at the bottom, let me put this back on me here. So that window that you saw in the corner there is right here. That's the room that I'm sitting in right now, just to kind of give you a layout of the land here. That bottom left window is right next to me as we sit here and speak. That addition, again, I hate to keep saying this, but I probably am, just because that's just my nature. This is what I've been told. That wing of the house, the 2-story addition to the left, was 1860s. And then the mirror image on the opposite side of the house was 1890s. Don't know this is fact, but this is what I've been told. So as we sit here right now talking, this room that I'm sitting in right now was built in 1860 or the 1860s. Uh, and it shows, trust me, this is a future project that I'll be doing on this channel, a remodel of this. So it started out with that center house, and then they built the two wings onto it, 1860s, 1890s for those. But then it was added onto again, and I've got a different photo here. This is actually from the intro. This is a drone shot that I did real early when we first moved in. Now, if you look at the long section that goes towards the back, you've got the two fireplaces there that are in the center of the original house. And then there's another long addition on the right side of the house that has the little white picket fence around it, with another small fireplace on the end. That is an addition that was built to connect the original, or the newest addition, I guess you could say, to the original kitchen on the house, smokehouse, kitchen, whatever it is that you want to call it. And that fireplace that you see on the very end there would have been the original fireplace from the 1830s that they would have cooked their meals at. And the little door that you see there that goes into that fenced in area, that's the door we use to let our dogs out. But what you see there between that original kitchen and fireplace, which that room would have ended right about where that door is, everything between that door and the original house is the current kitchen that I'm in the process of remodeling as we speak. I've made several videos about it and made some good progress over the weekend on building the kitchen island. So that addition would have been done in the early 1900s, possibly up to 1940s. As a matter of fact, this book, actually, I skimmed through it again this morning. I think it was in the 1940s that was built. I was always told early 1900s, but that's still early 1900s. I guess everything between or before 1950 would have been early 1900s. I don't know these dates for fact, but that's what I've been told. And then it was remodeled again in the 1990s. And then now I'm remodeling it again because it's due. If you've seen the videos, you know that it's due. So that addition there was the 1940s, and also the porch. Now, the porch is something that is of great controversy in my household, because the porch that you see there, or you get a better view of it on this one, this is obviously not original to the house, and it's not even the original porch. This porch was, when it was first built in what I've been told, late 1800s, like when they put those two additions on, they put a 2-story, like Georgian, Victorian, antebellum style 2-story porch on there, which in the 1940s, the last surviving family member of that family tore that second floor off. And if I'm being honest with you, it breaks my heart, because I love that style, that 2-story front porch. I love that. I've always loved that look. Nothing screams, Southern farmhouse more than that. I absolutely love that. It is a dream of mine to put that back up again, but it's a dream that I've come to the conclusion will never be realized, because for whatever reason, my crazy wife does not like 2-story porches on the front of houses. And so, when you have a disagreement like that between a husband and a wife, we all know who wins that argument, right? Every time. 100% of the time it works every time. What movie is that from? Anyway, everybody knows that movie. And I know the quote in the movie was 60% of the time it works every time. I was just having a little fun there. So in a perfect world, I would put that second story back up there, but I don't think that that's going to happen. And it does seem a little weird. The measurements don't quite work, like that second floor. And maybe this is why he took it down. it would not be really high. It would be a very small porch that you would need to be like Brad Williams or something to be able to stand up there perfectly straight. But nonetheless, it would look really, really nice. And I would love to do that. But for some reason, he tore that down. We will never know why he did that. And maybe it's just because he liked the look better. We all have our opinions. He may look at what I'm doing in the kitchen right now and be completely appalled. I don't know. So back to the drone footage here, not footage, but image. So I already talked about that L or, addition or whatever you want to call it that connected the original house to the kitchen. But then you see a larger, it almost looks like another house addition on the opposite side of that. And what that is, I got another picture of it here that is from a different angle. Here we go. Now this is an old picture, but it's not that old because that addition was built in the 1990s. So, this photo isn't going to be any more than 30 years old, but 30 something. You see there that it has a metal roof, and the entire house had a metal roof, which is very common down here in the South. It's common really everywhere. And I've been a tremendous fan of metal roofs ever since I've liked old houses. Now, I do know why that metal roof got replaced. And I know this because I was fortunate enough to meet the gentleman that built that addition. So again, the timeline of ownership of the house goes, the original family owned it. 4 generations of that family lived here. Some of them died here. No, we've not had any weird stuff happen. But then when the last surviving member of that family was like 95, he sold the property to a gentleman who I had the pleasure of meeting on the phone, never met him in person. And then it's very sad, but less than a month later, he passed away, which is terrible. It's terrible because 2 daughters lost a father, a wife lost a husband. And, I lost a new friend. Selfishly, I also lost one of my primary resources for information about this house. And he was able to dig up some very key information about this house, which we will discuss because it is kind of the elephant in the room and people are going to wonder about it. And so we will discuss it. But he bought the house from the last surviving member in 1986. And then passed away, or not, he didn't pass away, but the last surviving member passed away like 2 years later. And the new owner was gracious enough, and I would have done this too, to allow him to be buried with his 2. Now I almost said that really weird and made it sound like he has 2 wives. He was married. His first wife passed away. She's back there. And then he remarried. And that wife also passed away, and then he passed. So he allowed him to be buried with his wife, with his 2, you know what I'm saying? And the rest of his family, the whole family's back there. I believe every generation is back there. The issue is the cemetery itself has not been maintained very well, including by us. It is a source of a lot of shame for Lisa and I. We want to do something with that cemetery back there. That's on the list of things that we want to do. It's a lot. This is 4 acres. It's a lot to keep track of and to keep maintained perfectly. But from what I understand, the entire history of the family that lived here is back there. But some of the headstones are so old that they're completely smooth. Like you can't even read what's on them anymore. So I don't know for certain, but there are quite a few graves back there, including some that are either not marked or they were marked, but can't read them anymore. And there's even a 1-year-old infant baby from the family that passed back there. There is a Confederate soldier that I guess was killed in the war that is buried back there. Again, I've heard conflicting stories about this. I found an article about the cemetery that's in my backyard. I found it online, and one of them said that that stone was placed here, but the body's not here. I don't know. I'm not gonna dig anything up to find out. So anyway, in 1986, the gentleman purchased it, and he lived here for 20 years with his wife and their two daughters. And he did so much work to this place, including building the addition that you see here to the left of the screen, 2-story addition with the 2 windows on the top. That area of the house is the most recent addition. The bottom floor is a large family room, living room, recreation room, whatever you want to call it. And it's great. It's a really good size. I have completely remodeled that room. It's the first project I did on this house, and I never showed any of it on video, and I have my reasons why, but it turned out really, really good. I'm really happy with it. Lisa is happy with it, but I just never showed it on video. Above that, the second floor is our master bedroom and master bathroom. So that kind of gives you an idea. And again, that was built in the 90s. So this is a house. We haven't even talked about it. There were also 2 porches that were enclosed and made finished space. Those 2 additions happened at some point. I don't know when they happened. One of them is on the side of the kitchen that I'm currently remodeling. And another one, again, I don't know when it was done. It's really difficult to know exactly when all of these dates were, but there is some really important information about this house, that it is, as I said before, it's the elephant in the room. So I will bring up what I know about it, and then we'll move on, because nobody wants to talk about this. Can you purchase memberships? I don't know, Joe. I don't know if you're able to gift memberships. I don't know if that's something that I have available yet. But that would be really cool of you if you did that. Anything that we make from channel memberships goes to everything that we're going to talk about in this video or in this live stream here today. The elephant in the room, were there slaves here? The answer to the question is, I don't think so. This history book says that there were 3. However, interesting story. When I first moved in here, my neighbor, who I have a lot of neighbors, basically it's one entire family, that they own all of the houses and purchased up all the farmland. The original farmland from this property was 1,000 acres. They broke off just this 4 acres that Lisa and I have and sold off everything else. And that family bought it. That family moved in to a house across the street. We can see it from our kitchen window. It is a carbon copy of this house, the original house. They've also put additions onto that one. Maybe someday I'll talk to them about maybe walking through that house. That'd be cool to show on this channel, but it was built by the same people that built this house. Part of the same family that bought that house. Well, my neighbor, who is 81 years old, in 1943, his family bought that house. I'm pointing to it like you can see it. His family bought that house, and so he was raised here. He was raised playing on this property. And now, 1943, that dreaded time in our country's history would have been way in the past from then. So it's not like he would have visually seen any of this, but he did know the family. He knew the family very well. He knew what he was told about this place. And he also knew about the buildings that were on this property. I met him within the first week of living here. He came by. He has a little Kubota side-by-side that he just trucks around. I mean, he's out there every day, still working. He's dealing with some health problems right now, which is very unfortunate. But if that man wasn't wasn't dealing with health problems. I'm not going to talk about what the specific problems are, but he would be out there every single day, and I've seen it. I know it. And he came by, introduced himself, and immediately started telling me stories about this property because, again, he grew up across the street, and so he knew everybody. And I asked him, I said, listen, I don't even know how to bring this up, but, I grew up in the South. I've been here my whole life. And, when you buy a farmhouse in the South, people are going to come over and they're going to ask, were there slaves here? And I had already purchased this book, so I knew what this book said. I said, do you know anything about the slaves that were on this property? And he said, I can show you where they lived. And I said, oh, great, cool. Now, he said he was going to show me where they lived, but he said he was going to show me where it was. The building's no longer there, but there was a house, not a shack, but a house behind this house that was where they lived. But he said it, and I'll never forget the look on his face when he said it. He said, this is where the house was, but don't you dare ever say the word slaves again. And I was like, oh, I like this old man. And he said, I grew up with this family and they talked about it a lot. The people that were here, yes, they were of African descent, but they were not slaves. He said they were paid. They were given room and board. Their ancestors and all that, he doesn't know, but he knows the family that was here, and he called it a family. He said the three people that were here were not slaves. In fact, their relationship was so close with the owners of this property that when one of the wives, there's two previous owners of this house that were married twice. Their wives passed away while they were living here, and then they remarried. One of the wives, when they passed, was holding the hand of the woman in that family. And back in, before the big war, I don't think that would have happened. I don't think that, you know what I'm saying? This is a slippery slope here, and it's difficult to talk about. But he said when she passed, she was holding her hand, and, they wouldn't let a slave do that, is what he said. Now, this is an 81-year-old man, born and raised here, and that's the way he described it. He said, so never, ever, ever call them slaves, because they were not. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to argue with you. Now, another thing about that, and this is another thing that makes me feel so much better about it. The gentleman that purchased this house, that owned it from 86 to 2006, he was an attorney. He handled family law. He did wills. He handled estates. He did divorce. He handled divorces and all of that kind of stuff, child custody, that kind of law. He was not a criminal lawyer. He had access to all the documentation on this property because that's what he did for a living, and he knew where to get it. And he actually told me when we spoke, he was like, I got all of that. I'll give it to you. You can look at all of the documentation. He said, and I didn't know this at the time. He said, back in the day, anywhere, if you, I hate to say this word, but I can't change our country's history. If you owned a slave, back then it was looked at, the slave was looked at the same way a farmer would consider a New Holland or Case or John Deere tractor out in the field. It was a piece of equipment. I know how barbaric that sounds, and believe me, I believe it is barbaric, but that's the way they looked at it. And so back then, if you had a slave, you had to claim that slave on your taxes. I keep shaking my head. It's ridiculous to me too. I understand. He said that in the entire history of this property that he looked up through the county, he never once saw any documentation any claims made, anything filed on taxes ever that said anything about slaves here. And so that means, and this is him saying this to me, he said, that means the people that were here were either not slaves or the owners of this property were committing fraud. He said, and I don't think that it's fraud. I think that if they were slaves, he would have, or they would have documented that. And, that way everything was legit. But then again, we are talking about one of the darkest moments of our country's history. So who knows how it would have happened. But I like that story. And that's the story that I'm going to run with. The story that I'm going to go with is that there was a family here, a family of 3. They were not slaves. They lived here. They loved this family, and they were not enslaved. That's the story I'm going to go with. Do I know that as fact? Kinda, but also I don't. But that's the one that I like. Regardless of that, I mean, obviously, it wasn't my family. We purchased this from someone else, and I didn't have anything to do with it if they were slaves. But whatever. So I'm going to go with there were not slaves here. But this history book says there was. That doesn't mean that it's factual, though. And I'm going to go with the not being factual. So that gentleman, like I said, he owned this for 20 years. When I first spoke to him, the very first thing he said to me was, I got to tell you, I'm in my 70s. He said the exact year, how old he was, like 77 or something like that. He said, those were the best 20 years of my life. They were the best 20 years of my life because I loved this house. I loved doing the work that I did to it. And he did a lot. I mean, it's crazy how much he did in that 20 years. He said, I raised my daughters here. It was the best. And it is one of my biggest regrets is selling this house. But he did it for his wife. His wife grew up here and she was like, I've had enough. Come on, let's simplify things. I'm tired of living in a construction site because he was always working on this place. And so to appease his wife, he did the right thing. And they moved to a smaller place in Wilmington, I believe. So that's it with him. He sold the house in 2006. Just to go through the rest of this very briefly. The story goes, again, this is shared to me by my neighbor. He shared a lot of stories about this place. But he said, yeah, these 2 people. No, I'm telling you wrong. The realtor actually told us this. When that gentleman sold this property, when his wife, convinced him to sell the property, he sold it to a couple that lived in California, and they bought the house without even seeing it. He said, I created a really nice photo album that I shipped to them in California, and they looked through that photo album and they made their decision to buy the house, basically sight unseen, but they had seen pictures. I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to give you exact numbers, but I'm going to tell you that in 2006, when they bought this house, this family from California, this couple from California bought this house, they paid more than double what Lisa and I paid for it in 2022. Ouch. It was a particular real estate boom back then, at that time, in 2006, things were hot. I lived in a house that I bought in 2002 and it had doubled in value. So, he capitalized on that. Good for him. He did a lot of work to this house. He deserved to get that money back. So anyway, the story goes that they bought this house, they moved in, and nobody ever saw them. The neighbors did not know them. And this is the rural South down here. Neighbors know each other. I know my neighbors. One of them was just over here the other day bringing us a bag full of squash. I mean, we're it's good people out here. Everybody knows each other. Everybody knows each other's business. But nobody knew them. They were like this mysterious couple that was here, and they only lived here for 8 months. And then I was going to say disappeared, but it's not like, there was a criminal investigation and they launched a national missing persons. It wasn't like that. They just took off. They just abandoned the house and left. And so the neighbors, the older neighbors, they're all like, yeah, they had to have been running from something. They bought this house. Maybe they were doing a little laundry, if you know what I mean. And they paid a ridiculous amount of money for this house. And then they just bounced after 8 months. They took off and nobody ever saw them again. And so the house got foreclosed on. And after it got foreclosed on, about 2 years, I don't know if you know anything about the foreclosure process, but it takes a while before the bank actually puts it up on the market. The bank did put it on the market at about a quarter of the price of what those people from California paid for it. And a gentleman bought it who Lisa and I, 14 years later, bought it from him. He bought it as an investment. He is somebody that is well known in town. I've had the fortune of meeting him one time at Food Lion. He is a great man. I've never heard anything bad about him. Everybody that speaks about this gentleman talks about him as if he is a god on earth. I mean, everybody absolutely loves him. And when I did get the opportunity to meet him, I can totally see why. He's a wonderful human being. And he owns a lot of properties in the town that I live in. And he bought this as an investment and he took really good care of it and then sold it to us. And so there you go. There's the history of the ownership, but there's not just the house here. There's more than just the house. There are several buildings on the property. And there was a lot more, but unfortunately there's only a few of them left. I've done this so many times. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 additional buildings on the property, 4 outbuildings on the property now, but there used to be buildings everywhere because again, this was a farm complex. This was the heart and soul of an 1,100 acre farm. By the way, the family that bought all of this land, they have over 2,000 acres now. So they're big time farmers. And let me tell you, they were out planting sweet potatoes this week. And Lisa and I were amazed watching these people. There was like 18 people out there and they were planting sweet potatoes. They planted 35 acres of sweet potatoes in one day. It was pretty incredible to watch. Anyway, a lot of the outbuildings are no longer here. A couple of them were torn down by that gentleman that owned it for 20 years. And he said, the reason why was because he was either going to take them down or they were coming down on their own. And it's unfortunate. And I actually missed one because it's behind the camera. There is technically 5 outbuildings. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 outbuildings, but one of them really doesn't count. Anyway, maybe we'll touch on that. But there was a lot of things that happened that led to these buildings coming down. One of them was Hurricane Isabel, did a ton of damage. It damaged a lot, not only on this property, but our entire town was wiped out. It was bad. They've made documentaries about it, about the town I live in being basically demolished by Hurricane Isabel. There was a couple of big garages that were basically the storm took them out. And so he had the task of removing all of those. And the storm, one of the storms, I don't know if it was Isabel, but there was a hailstorm that happened, which is why they took off that metal roof. I mentioned that earlier. The entire house had a metal roof on it, which a huge hailstorm. He described it as hail the size of softballs coming down. Everybody describes it that way, right? And they were probably the size of golf balls, but when you're in the middle of an apocalyptic hailstorm, I would probably describe them as softballs too. He said 17 windows just in the house were destroyed by hail. And of course, their vehicles were ripped apart, and the metal roof got so damaged that they replaced it. And he apologized to me. He said, sorry, but we put that asphalt on there just because we didn't want that to happen again. And I'm like, this is why I'm bald, because I pulled all my hair out. It's like, man, I really wish you had kept that metal roof on there. Not the beat up one, but I really, insurance covers it. You should have replaced it with metal roof again. But anyway, he made his decisions. He made decisions that he even knew were bad decisions, and he apologized for them, but it is what it is. There was also another barn. Now, I'm going to get into the buildings that we still have, but there was a large barn. It was like a 75 by 40 barn that burnt down a couple of years before we bought this place. And I was actually really sad about that, because you know how Google Maps takes forever to update? Even like, not even Google Maps, but like Google Earth. When Lisa and I were looking at this place, before we ever even came down here to see it in person, I looked on the internet and saw the photos that were on the listing. But then I also went on Google Maps to see like that overhead shot of it, and the barn was still there in that. And so I was looking at it like the dream scenario. We have the big barn that we'll use for our business. We have the other building, we're going to talk about these, that we're going to use for all of our aquariums. Our business will be straight. And then that other building is going to be my workshop. Dream come true. This is beautiful. We pull up in the driveway and it's not there. What the heck? Where's that other barn? Oh, it burnt down. In fact, somebody, I don't know who it is. It's probably my UPS man, who is another one of my neighbors, not part of that other family, but he lives down the street. I can see his house from my house. But anyway, he's become a good friend. It may have been him that shared that with me, but somebody actually has a video of that barn in my backyard burning down. I was very sad when I saw that. But so we lost that barn. And as a matter of fact, yeah, you can kind of see it. I don't know if it's going to show up or not, but I'll show you this picture here. This is another drone shot, or not drone shot, but overall photo of the property. Not this little shed right here, but right here, you can see the metal roof of that barn that burnt down. Now this one over here is the barn that we still have, but this one is the one that burnt down. And I was very sad about that. But not all is lost. Oh, and then that little house that we talked about earlier, that also came down. And I've been shown where it was, but that's about all I know about it. I have found no evidence of that at all. Oh, here we go. My wife, she's the best. I'll show you this. This is a photo that was shared to us by our neighbors. This is my neighbors getting married on our property. And you see the barn in the background there, behind the really tall gentleman on the right, that red building there. You see that barn. So that, yeah, people have had their wedding ceremonies on this property. And I don't want to point out all the members of the family, but the gentleman there, the groom, he is the one that now lives in the house across the street that is the mirror image or carbon copy of this house. That his grandfather, which is the old man that tells me all the stories, his grandfather moved into that house in 1943. He and his wife and their two children, one child. What am I saying? Lisa will correct me. They have a son and a daughter. They have a son and a daughter. I'm pretty sure. Shame on me. It's my neighbors. I should know that. Their son's name is Braden, and he's awesome. And my grandson's name is Braden, so that's easy for me to remember. But they were just over here the other day. So yeah, absolutely adore them. So we lost that barn several years before we even bought this place, and it made me very sad. Um, but the buildings that we still have are the main barn. And I've got a really cool photo of that to show you, and it is right here. That barn. Now, if you recall on this channel, the video on our channel that has the least amount of views, because it's just a dumb video that I just turned the camera on and started filming one day, where I was trying to repair the lean-to on my barn. That's the barn right there. And the lean-to on the left with the 3 horses in front of it, that's the lean-to that I was fixing. That photo is from 1900, according to this history book that I've shown you a couple of times. It was a horse barn, obviously, and now it serves as our warehouse. And hopefully someday good things happen with our business, not the Money Pit. I hope good things happen there too, but our KG Tropicals business, hopefully we build a new building, we move our business into that new building, and this barn becomes the Money Pit workshop. I am going to have to fight my wife for that because she wants to fill it with cats, but we'll see. We'll see who wins that fight, and hopefully I come out victorious there. But yeah, this barn, from what I understand, again, and what I did, this is the photo I just showed you. I just took a picture of this photo and put it up there. That barn predates the house, from what I understand. When the farm was founded, they needed somewhere to put the horses. They built that barn, and then they built the house. That's the way I understand it. I don't know for certain. That barn, without the lean-tos, is 75 feet long by, I can't do them. I think it's like 65 feet wide without the lean-tos. It's broken up into multiple rooms, and it's actually pretty cool. The stalls, the original horse stalls, are now like individual rooms that are used for individual things that we use for our business, which is really cool. It's worked out really well for us. And that barn is one of the main reasons why we bought this house, was because we fell in love with that building. The interior of the barn was finished by the lawyer. That's what we're going to refer to him as for the rest of this conversation. The lawyer finished the interior of that barn, and we were originally told he did that because he wanted to have a nice, like, man cave type area that he could go out there and watch the Super Bowl and stuff like that. And so I mentioned that to him when I spoke to him. I said, yeah, we use your man cave as our warehouse. He said, what are you talking about? I said, well, the barn, the interior of the barn. He said, what are you talking about, man cave? That wasn't my man cave. I finished that to be an area that my daughters could hang out in and have their friends over, and they could have a good time out there. The wedding reception that I just showed you the pictures for was in that barn. There were multiple wedding receptions in that barn, which is now our warehouse, which is kind of a shame, but it's getting used. So that's good. And because it's being used, we're not letting it fall down. So that's good. I guess we're doing the right thing with it, but very popular, that building. In fact, there's a hardware store in town that is one of my favorite places on earth. A little family-owned hardware store. And I'm almost like Tim Taylor. When I walk in there, people know who I am. They know me by name, and I love it. It's amazing. The owner of that store is a guy, I think he's probably in his early 40s. Never asked him his age because that's just weird. But he's the owner of that hardware store. His family has owned that store forever. And whenever we've gotten to talking, he's like, yeah, I remember being in my teens, hanging out in that barn with his daughters, and nothing weird, but they were friends. They went to high school together, and he's like, yeah, I remember hanging out in that barn. That barn was great. That was awesome. So it's really fun to hear stories about that, or stories like that. Again, our plans for that building is, hopefully it becomes my workshop, or it may become a building full of cats. But there's another big building. The other reason why we fell in love with this property, and that would be this building here. Now, this building has a very, very special history. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough time to get more photos of it or more video footage or anything of it. The building looks very different right now, and that tree that's in front of it is absolutely massive now. It's probably 60 feet tall, and it just covers the entire building. It's amazing. It is a pine tree. So that building is actually two buildings combined into one. If you see the section of it to the right that has the porch on it, that was originally a general store that they would have in rural areas. The general store would sell everything from boots to underwear to cornflakes to drinks and food. And it was an everything. It was almost like a modern day Walmart. They sold everything in there. And the building to the left, or the section to the left that has that square front facade on it, that was a one-room schoolhouse that was down the street from us that they were going to tear down to replace with a new big school. And somehow somebody worked out a deal to, rather than tear that down, they moved it over here. They connected it to that other building, and it became all one big building. It's not big building. It's like 2,400 square feet if you include both buildings. It might not even be that big. It's not a big building, but it's a lot of people. When I meet somebody, they're like, oh, the house with the store in the front. People know it for that. They know the store more than they know the school. To me, the school is the most fascinating part of it. The fact that it was a schoolhouse. But anyway, but one of the cool things, and again, I've shown this on video, I believe they sold gas there too. And they even sold kerosene, and the gas pump is still out in the front yard, right in front of that building, which is very, very cool. And that gas pump was functional until the 1990s. The lawyer would get the tank filled up, and he and his family would fill up their cars in the front yard. How cool is that? It's not functional now. There is I can see the fill cap thing there sitting there, but it's not functional. The price is stuck on $1.33. So anyway, it's very cool. There's a lot of history there, and I do plan on probably, I don't know when, I really would like to do it this fall. I want to do a restoration of the exterior of that building. Anybody that's here from KG Tropicals knows that's where we have all of our aquariums now. We ripped out the floor of the main store, not the schoolhouse, but the store. We ripped out the floor and replaced it with concrete. We have all of our aquariums in there now. So the interior of the building is pretty much set in stone, but I do want to do the outside of it. It needs a lot of work now. The porch is leaning. The roof of the porch is leaning. The paint is a nightmare. The roof is good. The roof's in good shape. Don't have to worry about that. There's a couple of pieces of molding missing. There's a lot of stuff on that building. And I would like to do a restoration of the outside, of the exterior of that. And I would probably, as far as videos go, I'd probably break it apart into two parts. One would be the general store, and the other would be the schoolhouse, because they are very different. If you look at the siding of it, I'll show you all this in video. The siding on the store is different than the siding on the school. And, because they're two completely different buildings. So I can't wait to do that. I'm really looking forward to it. But we're getting to that time of year now where the bugs are going to start to become a problem. It's going to be extremely hot, and it would probably be too hot to paint. I would spray and it would just dry before it even hits the walls. So probably wait till fall to do that. And it's a project that will probably take me months. When I look at it now and I'm like, well, it's really not that big of a deal. To go through there and scrape it, sand a few areas, replace a few boards, slap some paint on it, we'll be good to go. It never works out that way. There's always something. And I think one of the things that is going to end up needing to be done on that building, which is not done now, and I know this for a fact, is I'm going to insulate it. The attic is insulated, but the walls are not. And so when I do the restoration of the exterior, I think what I'm going to do is take the top piece of siding off. It's wood siding. Take that off and then use blown insulation to blow insulation into each one of the stud cavities. That's the plan. And I might as well do it while I'm doing the exterior. It makes sense. I certainly don't want to do it from the interior, which is all wood walls. Don't want to be drilling holes into that. So other than that building, there is a small building, which is called the Peacock House. And I'll show you this photo again. You can kind of see it. The gentleman, the groomsman that's all the way to the right, not the guy that looks like he's about 7 feet tall, but the other young guy, directly behind him is a small building, tiny building with a little green door on it. That is what is called the Peacock House. And apparently one of the previous owners of this house had peacocks. Oh, okay, that's fine. But that is, I don't know what it was used for. Apparently it was used for peacocks. It's an adorable little building. We don't use it for really anything. It's just kind of there. That's not the one that I am not counting because it's prominent. It's right there in front of our house. When you watch the intros to all of my videos in the very end where it says the money pit and you see that weather vane was on top of that, but a storm wrecked it and took it out. So it's not up there anymore. I don't think you can see it in that picture. Yeah, you can. You can see the weather vane on there. I'll put it up here the third time. It's directly above that gentleman's head. It's a weather vane on top of a little cupola. And it was adorable and I loved it, but, a storm got the better of that. So maybe, at least I was just asking about this the other day. Could we replace that? And I still have the weather vane, but, could we replace the cupola? Maybe we could someday. Maybe that'll be a project. That'll be the thing that'll get her to, I can convince her to let me have the barn as a workshop. I'm like, oh, if you let me have that, I can build a new cupola in there. It'll be perfect. That is a cupola, right? Not a pergola. The pergola is the thing in the front. It's a cupola. I believe that's what that's called. There's also about equal in size a small goat house, which is, I hate to say it, maybe I can get in there and fix it, but it is in really, really bad shape. Termites have had their way with that. And I'm afraid that little building might come down. It is very small. It's like 8 feet by maybe 12 feet. It's only like the peak of the roof is only like 6 feet high. It has an adorable little fence and they would put goats in there. There was apparently a big fence for the goats, and that's where the goats would go. Right now it's a place that I'm so sad. I'm so ashamed to say this, but while I am cutting the grass, when I'm driving around on my mower and I run into a stick, I'll grab the stick and I'll throw it in there. So it's literally full of sticks now, and shame on me for that. Other than that, there is the shed. I call it my shed. I'm assuming that's what it's always served as. It is the red building with the 3 green doors kind of to the right of the screen here. That building is going to come into play when I talk about future projects, but you can see the Peacock House in this picture here too. That is, well, it's a shed. That's what it is. It's a shed. The double doors on the left is where I keep my lawnmower. I'm just leaving everybody a roadmap to come here and steal everything. But that's where I keep my 60-inch Kubota. Oh, beautiful lawnmower. The other two, the door in the center is where I keep all of my tools. And then the door all the way to the right is just kind of a storage question or a storage place. Do I ask my fish questions here? You rascal, JR. It was a smokehouse originally. What are we talking about here? Finsanity with the $20 super chat. Thank you, my friend. No gifting option. I don't know if that's something I have to opt into. I might need to. I'll look into that after we're done here, Joe. My wife would lose her mind if our property had a grave site. She's a ghost hunter believer. That's funny, Dragon Dad. I do not believe in ghosts, and I'm going to tell you why. Every single human being on planet Earth right now is walking around with a 4K video camera in their pocket. If there was such thing as Bigfoot, if there was a Loch Ness monster, if there was the Chupacabra and the Yeti and ghosts and all of this, we would have so much video footage of all of this stuff, it would make your head spin. But no, instead, we get these dumb ghost hunter shows where they're listening to this device and they hear a little, and they're like, oh my God, that was a person that said, hey, get out of here. It's like, it's so ridiculous. It's so dramatized. There would be so much footage that we wouldn't know what to do with. Look at this photo. And you can see there behind the tree, 100 yards away, you see something that kind of resembles maybe a little bit of fur. We think that is a Sasquatch, Sam Squanch. Really? Are you serious? If Bigfoot was real, there would be thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of videos. And I feel the same way about ghosts. It's absurd. I know there's some creepy videos out there. So Dragon Dad, I'm not making fun of Dragon Mom. I'm just saying, we would know by now, right? We would know. Everybody's walking around with an evidence finder in their pockets. So, but I'm not going to lie. When we pulled up to this property for the first time, I didn't know that cemetery was there. And we drove in and we were looking right at it. And I said, oh, okay. Probably should have expected that because that's what families do down here. I mean, you get a nice piece of land out here anywhere, there's probably some graves in the back because that's what they did. But that surprised me a little bit. And it was a little bit creepy. The first couple times I had to go out to the barn at 11 o'clock at night and there's the moonlight shining off of the headstones. Just, sure, a little creepy. But it is what it is. I mean, I don't believe in ghosts, so it doesn't bother me that much. The zombies, maybe. No, I'm kidding. What are we saying here? How many peacocks can you put in the peacock house? Cali Kev, you are setting yourself up to be banned on here, brother or sister. Kev, pretty sure that's going to be a brother. Sorry. You're just being cruel is what you're doing to me now. For people who have come over that are not familiar with the KG Tropicals channel, on my live streams on KG Tropicals, I have a rule. They're not allowed to ask a question that starts with the word how many. So Cali Kev is being a jerk. So anyway, what do I have to do to this house? Lisa just sent me a really cool photo of said peacock house. So there we are. You can also see the background there where there is not a nice big barn that would have served as my workshop. But that's a good photo of the peacock house, and the sun rays coming through just adds to the dramatic effect. Thank you, Lisa, for the help there. So, and I don't think our neighbors, they're going to get a kick out of us putting up their picture in front of the millions of people that are watching this right now. They're going to get a kick out of that. But anyway, the list of things that need to be done on this property are, it is vast. I've talked about some of them, so I don't want to just go through my entire list. It would be, it's a list that's probably 100 items deep, and it's growing almost every single day. So we'd be here all day if I was to explain to you exactly what's wrong everywhere. But basically, when you have a property that's almost 200 years old, everywhere you walk, everywhere you look, for me anyway, I'm the most critical person in the world of my own stuff. I see things that I'm like, yep, got to fix that. Got to straighten that out. Got to tighten that up. Got to move that over. You know, I mean, it's everywhere. It's all over the place, and it never really ends. And every single time I check something off the list, 3 or 4 more things get added to it. Right now with the kitchen remodel, that has been something that has dominated my world for the last 5 months. You know, I run a business. I chase my wife around. I don't have 40 hours a week to work on these things. I work on all of these things when I can. And so when I have a major project like a kitchen remodel, you know, the spare time that I have, which I'm not sitting here trying to cry the blues. I have spare time, but when I have spare time that I'm going to commit to working on stuff on the house, it's been dominated by the kitchen over the last 5 months. So the list has been getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's super frustrating. But I plan on doing videos on so much of this stuff because it's fun, and I enjoy being able to just document things. That photo album that I was talking about that the lawyer put together to send to that family in California, he made a second copy of that, and he left it in the house, and it disappeared. He was asking me, like, do you have that? Did you see it? Because he documented everything that he did to this property in photographs. And he was like, did you get that? And I said, no, I've never even heard of it. Man, I wish I could have seen that. But yeah, we haven't been able to find that. So, I mean, it's not here. When they took off, they must have taken it with them. Any more tools getting flipped off? No. But I did have a very major, absolutely heartbreaking thing happen. That it involves tools, but it's not the tool's fault. And you will have to wait until 2 videos now to find out. I already know this. Lisa already knows this, and we already know what we're going to do about it. But there was a major thing that happened that made me curse a lot. We'll talk about it. And the next 2 videos that I'm putting up on this channel are the building of the kitchen island, which I'm about halfway done with right now. That's the good progress I made last weekend. And then the next video, the video after that is going to be the island top, which I got a very special thing planned for that. That'll be the video that you'll see that. And you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And I think anybody, Curtis, I know you a little bit. I think you would probably be cursing too. So I already talked about the exterior of the store/school. We call it, on the KG Tropical side, we call it the old fish house. I want to restore the exterior of that. That's hopefully going to be coming up this fall. It's one of those things, though, that whatever money I think it's going to take to do that, I need to multiply that by like 3. So if I'm like, well, you know, buy a couple 5-gallon buckets of paint and, you know, probably 5 gallons of primer and some moldings. Some of the moldings I might have to make to replicate what they have. That's going to be expensive and time consuming. You know, I got to straighten up that porch. Who knows what I'm going to find there? I mean, probably cost me $1,500 to do what I want to do on the outside. No, it's probably going to end up costing $4,500. So I got to make sure we have that that surprise fund available for that before I start on a major project like that. But the nice thing about a project like that is I can work on it as long as I need to work on it, and it's not going to hold us back from anything. It's not like doing a major remodel in a kitchen that you're using every day. It's going to be a lot easier, but I'm also going to need to get scaffolding for that and stuff like that. It's going to be a big project, but I'm looking forward to it. And I really want to paint that building red. I don't know if Lisa and I have decided on that or not. I don't think the Historic Preservation Society would allow me to paint it red, but they'll just have to come and find out for themselves. I'm certainly not going to write a letter or send an email asking somebody permission of what color I can paint a building on my property. Not doing it. It's mine. I'm paying for it, not you. But I do respect those organizations a lot. But to change the color of a building, it's kind of ridiculous to have to ask somebody permission for that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, this house is listed as a historic property. And so there is the Historic Preservation Society that apparently, I spoke to them before we moved in, and they were like, you know, if you're going to change things, you gotta let us know. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay. No problem. Anyway, that's a major project that I want to do. The shed door or the shed in general, I'll show you the picture again of it's not the best photo of it. Where did it go? Which one is it? Oh, I know why that's happening that way, because I just took it out. Let me pull this photo back up again. This photo here, the shed that's in the back on the right with the 3 doors on it. The shed door, the double door on the left is literally, and I'm using the word literally appropriately here, literally falling off of the hinges. It is a very flimsy, basically fence boards screwed together with a couple of cross members and then put on some big fancy hinges. And it has just deteriorated. Some of the boards have fallen off, and it's a nightmare. So I'm going to build a new shed door for that. And I'm really excited about that because it's one of those things that really, really bothers me. I got to close the doors and then put a piece of, I actually have a scraper tool that I stick in the door to hold it closed. And it's such a jerry rig type thing. It really bothers me. Really looking forward to doing that. As far as like major structural things going on here, I alluded to this in a previous live stream. There is an area of my house that scares me a lot. And I'm just here to tell you, whenever I do this project and I do a video of it, you can expect, you know how every single United States president that ever gets elected, whether it's Barack Obama, who was a young man when he was elected, George Bush wasn't that old George Bush Jr. wasn't an old man when he was elected. Every single U.S. president that you've ever seen elected, particularly those that have served 2 terms, they come in looking young and spry and they're fit and they got nice full heads of hair. And after the 4 years, they're gray headed and they look frail and they look like old men. Every single one of them it's happened to. That's what you're going to watch happen when I do this project. You're going to see this happen in real time because I'm going to turn into an old man during that because it's going to be so stressful. There is an area in my house that I don't know how to describe it other than to say it is sinking. And it's because this house is built on a pier system. The soil out here is very sandy. It settles. And after 200 years, it has settled several inches in this one area of the house. And so I'm quite literally, again, using that word properly, I'm going to be jacking my house up in the center of the house underneath a staircase. It's the support for a staircase. The very first video I uploaded on this channel, I talk about this. It is something that I knew moving in. The house is not going to come crashing down, but it absolutely has to be resolved. But it is a major, major, major project because for one, well, I'm jacking the house up. And for two, accessing that area to jack it up is really tough. We're going to have to take walls down. It's a major, major project that's going to be going on. I'll be honest. I'm excited to get it done. Not excited about doing it because it's scary. When you're jacking something up, you have to think about what's above it and what's above that. And is it going to impact the roof? Am I going to jack this up? And then I walk outside and all of a sudden my roof goes like this. It's really scary. Probably going to have to involve a civil engineer, not civil engineer, but like a structural engineer, just to make sure that that's going to be okay to do it. Basically, the reason why it's happening is because the very first bathroom that was added to this house was added to the second floor, and it just was not meant to support that much weight. When you have a bathtub and a toilet and all of the ceramic tile and all of that, it weighs a lot. And the house wasn't built for that. So now it's my problem. I've got to fix that. Not looking forward to it, but it is something that's going to have to be done. I would have put the kitchen on this list, but I'm almost done with that. The next thing, this is by far the biggest thing that I want to do to this house. I may have already talked about it. I'm getting old. I'm going to be 51 in 2 weeks. I don't know, the 24th of this month. So I'm forgetful. If I've already talked about this, I'm sorry, but it is the project that has bothered me since the second we looked at this house, and I cannot wait to do it, but it's going to cost a ridiculous amount of money. And that is to, again, correct an issue that was done by the lawyer. And it's another issue that he apologized to me for, and that is the siding on this house. This house obviously was originally had wood siding. I don't know what it is. Cedar, pine, southern yellow pine, Doug fir. I don't know what it is. I don't know what they used to side this house. And the reason why I don't know what it is because it's covered up at the moment. The lawyer built that 2-story addition. He did other exterior modernizations to this house. And rather than try to match all of the siding, and he was trying to do it in wood siding, but then he put it up wrong and couldn't get it to match. And he was really frustrated. And he just said, you know what, to hell with it. I'm just going to have somebody come in and wrap this entire house with vinyl siding. My intention is to, and by the way, he just covered up everything that was here. And when I talked to him, I said, I'm really excited to someday rip that vinyl siding down and then just restore the original siding. And he said, oh, you're not going to be able to do that. The whole reason why I covered it up is because it is trash. So you're not going to like what you see when you pull that siding down. So just understand, if you're going to do this project, you're going to need to replace everything all the way down to the studs. Wasn't happy to hear that because I was up for a challenge, but this is where we're at. So the plan would be to tear down the vinyl siding, then tear down the wood siding, the original siding, and then put sheathing up and then put new siding on top of all of that. What siding would I use? It would be hardy plank. My favorite house that I've ever seen in my entire life was a house that was sided with vinyl siding, hardy plank siding. And it was just the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It was a new house. And I've always, ever since then, I've dreamt of doing that. I've also dreamt, because this house was that way, of painting it red, like the other buildings on this property. But I don't think I'd be able to get away with that. And to be honest, I don't think this house would look right painted red. Red with the white trim, just like my barn is and just like my shed is. I would love to do that, but I think it would look bad on this place. So we'll stick with the white, but it'll be new white and it'll be beautiful. And it is without question I'll probably be 53 or 54 by the time I take this project on. It will be then, and it would be now if I started it today, the biggest project I've ever done in my entire life. And I intend to do the entire thing by myself. I know how crazy that sounds, but I intend on doing it that way. And the way I'm going to do it is to do it in sections. Start on one wall, do everything all the way to the paint. Tear all the siding out, put the sheathing up, insulate if I have to. The whole house is insulated, but it might need some, little touch-ups on the insulation. Insulating it from the opposite side of where you normally would insulate. Put the sheathing up, put up the new siding, prime it, paint. It's already primed. Paint it. Sherwin-Williams, of course, because it's the best paint in the world. And then once that is complete, probably take a 2-week break and then start the next section and just work my way around the entire house. I am not anticipating that one to make me an old man. I'm really excited about doing that one. And that's a project that I've wanted to do on this house since the day we bought it. Because to me, with this being a historic house and it being almost 200 years old, I believe it is a criminal offense to be covered in vinyl siding. I don't have a problem with vinyl siding, but not on this house. I think the contractor that did it, not the lawyer, because rest his soul, the contractor that did that, I think should be put in jail. With that, another thing, and this is one of the few projects that I will absolutely not do myself, and that is the roof. My dream is to someday be making videos on the exterior of this house, making videos for you on this channel, showing this house with new siding and a new metal roof. The problem is, I'll show you this photo again. Again, the house looks big. The house is 3,600 square feet, which is a very good size. It's way more house than what Lisa and I need, but it's a big U shape if you're looking at it from the top. That center section is a concrete patio. That's where I built my cabinets in a previous video. But when you look at this from the street, it looks like that's all house. So it makes it look like this place is absolutely massive. It's not as big as it looks, but it still is a good size house. And the thing is, when you look at this, what do you see a lot of? You see a lot of roof because they've added to the house so much. So a metal roof is going to be outrageously expensive. I'm expecting it to be in the neighborhood of like 75 grand. So who knows when that would get done? And here's the thing. There's a couple of different types of metal roofs. You've got the metal roof like we have on our barn, which is actually very inexpensive. All of the buildings on our property have this metal roof, except for the house. House has asphalt shingles. But the shed, not the Peacock house, I'm sitting here lying to you, that has asphalt too. But the shed, the goat house, the barn, and the store and school, they all have metal roofs, and it's those ridge style metal roofs. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. I don't even know what it's called. It's very nice looking, but it is not what I would want for the house. What I would want would be a standing seam metal roof, which of course is the most expensive of all the metal roofs. And I'm expecting it to be something that is really, really expensive. And absolutely not something that I would do. Now, if you look at this one picture that I showed you, you got to look real, real, real close. The fireplace that's on the right, if you look at that fireplace and you look right next to it, you might already know what that is. It is the post for an old DirecTV satellite dish that was on there when we moved in. And it was one of those things that was on my list for a very long time to get up there and remove. It took me a while to do it because I didn't have a ladder that was high enough to do it, but I did end up going up there and taking that off. And I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to be brutally honest with you. I'll do a lot of things. I'm not afraid to do anything. I'm not afraid to get dirty. I did not like being up on that roof. It was terrifying. I'm not a roof guy. I don't like being up there. I'm not afraid of heights, but I am afraid of being up on a, it's like a 10-12 pitch. I mean, it's maybe not 10-12. That's extreme, but it's possible. It could be a 10-12, could be an 8-12, which if you're not familiar with construction lingo, that basically means for every foot it rises 8 inches or 10 inches or 12. A 12-12 pitch would be a 45-degree angle, basically. It feels like a 12-12 pitch. It's terrifying up there. It's way up. There's no gutters because we're on sand, so you don't really need gutters. The water just goes right down in the ground. Gutters, I've been on a lot of roofs, popping flues through roofs and stuff like that for my old job. The gutters were always kind of that last thing. Like, if I go down, I can at least grab on that, like Clark Griswold, and I can hang there until Lisa hears me screaming and she can bring me a ladder to put up there. But, oh, look at this. My wife. Come on. Do I have the best wife ever or what? Seriously. Look at this. Look what she did. She just sent the picture of me up there getting that off the roof. This woman, I tell you. What you don't see on my face in that picture is the absolute terror on my face. Of course, I acted like a big shot because I didn't want to look like an idiot in front of my wife. I wanted her to think I'm this big, strong guy, but I was up there pissing my pants. I do not like being up on that roof at all. And I certainly cannot imagine being up there all day. No, no, it's just not going to happen. I'm not going up there to replace the roof. And the other thing is, look at her. She's the best. This is from the other side. She just walked around having a good old time taking pictures of me. Come on, make this bigger here. Yeah, I stayed on the back side of the roof as much as I could, because if I went down, there is the roof that is over top of the kitchen. And so I would tumble down and then land on that roof and then tumble off of that roof and land on my concrete patio, which would not be pleasant. But it would be a lot better than rolling off of the front, which would just be, 20 feet straight down. I would land on dirt if I was to go down that way, but it still would not be fun. And I was not excited about being up there. So that'll be one of those jobs that I would hire a pro to come in and do. And, I think because I've been up in the attic, I think there's probably going to need to be some structural repairs up there too. Maybe adding some new trusses and stuff like that. So we're talking about a major, major project that I'm just not going to do. A professional crew could come in and they would bring 12 guys out here and they would rip that roof off, do whatever repairs need to be done, maybe replace the sheathing or double up on the sheathing and then put that metal roof done. They would do it in probably a week, where I would go to my grave and be buried in the backyard before it would ever get done. So yeah, but those two projects we're talking about, I'm guessing well over $100,000 to replace the roof and the siding. And that's even with me doing the siding myself. So needless to say, it's going to take a lot of $20 Joe Provenzano Finsanity Aquatics super chats to make something like that happen. I'm not asking anybody for money. I'm just saying, this is why I say if, whatever money is made on this Money Pit channel, that it's going to go not towards that. It's going to go towards all the projects on this place. The only way I could imagine that project, either of those projects ever getting done, is if the channel takes off and it's, like BYOT or Fix This, Build That or Home Renovation. Those are some major, massive home improvement YouTube channels, all great channels, by the way. If my channel was to take off like that, I could see being able to do something like that. But unless that happens, I don't know when it's going to happen. So we'll have to see about that. Honest question. You and Lisa are around me and wife's age. What made you want to buy I think you meant such a large house? When you're 75, you're not going to be able to maintain that. That is very, very true. So here's the thing. It's a great question. And it's a great point because you're right. It's tough even now. I mean, like I said, I'll be 51 in a couple weeks. And I struggle now to keep a hold of everything. My grass right now is out of control and it really bothers me. My neighbor came over the other day and the first thing I said to her was, sorry you had to walk through the jungle to get here. I could hear Slash's intro playing in my head. It's a lot to take care of now. But the reason why we bought it, we have a large family and we are a doors always open family. It's just Lisa and I living here right now, but if any of our kids, they're all doing really well. So can't imagine this happen, but any of our kids ever needed to come back home, which I had to do when I was an adult because of my divorce and all of that. You know, you never know what the future holds. We're prepared. Even if our oldest, who is doing very well and makes really good money and has a beautiful home and 3 beautiful kids, you know, if something happened with them and they needed somewhere to go, we could accommodate them right now. So there's that. That's never going to happen because they're doing really well. They're doing better than we are. So, you know, that's not going to happen. But if it did, we'd be good. But there's also, it was the big picture. It was the totality of all of this that made us buy this, because we wanted a place where we could accommodate our family, but also our business. And so those 2 buildings, the store/school and the barn, who asked that? Salient, you know this because you're an aquatics guy. You know KG Tropicals. You know that those buildings right now are how we make our living. And so that was the biggest selling point for this place was those 2 buildings, because we could move right in, start operating our business out of there. And not only that, but expand our business. You know, we introduced plants and selling plants on the website after we moved here because we had the space to do it. We started selling snails because we had the space to do it. We've expanded our inventory. We have like 70 products now that we didn't have when we moved down here that we're carrying on our website. So it's all of that, you know, it's the big picture that made us get this. But you're absolutely right. It is, it's a lot, and I'm definitely not going to be wanting to take care of it all when I'm 75. But my hope is that, you know, when I'm 75, my mom is 79. When I'm her age, I'm getting up there and I don't want to take care of it anymore. One of 2 things would happen. We would sell it and move into something smaller, or we'd be in a position where I could just call a guy. I'm not a call a guy person. I won't do it unless I'm bedridden or something. I mean, I will not call a guy. The only way I'll call a guy is if it's dangerous, like being up on a roof, or it's dangerous, like could burn my house down, which is why I don't mess with electrical. Other than that, I'm not calling a guy. That project is just going to have to wait until I can do it because I'm not calling a guy to do it. Won't pay a guy to cut my grass yet. Someday, maybe. But you know, the family that lived here before us, they were just renting this. In fact, they rented it from us for a couple of months after we bought it. Great family. And when we came to look at it, they were living here and he was like, yeah, I have a guy cutting the grass. You know, I mean, I got a busy schedule. He was a minister. And so, and they had like 12 people living in this house. And he was like, I have a guy that comes out and cuts the grass for me, gets it done in like 2 hours and it's over and I don't have to worry about it. And at the time I was like, oh yeah, I get it. But I walk away and I'm like, whatever, I would never do that. No, I could see myself doing that someday, but it would have to be one of those scenarios where it is just, I just can't do it. My grass is long right now. It's been raining a lot. And so the grass has flourished. The weeds have flourished. But I'll get to it. It's going to get done. It bothers me right now, but it's not bothering me to the point where I feel like I have to hire a guy to come out here and do it. But maybe someday, things are going so well that I can do that. And I won't have to dedicate an entire day every single week to cutting grass and picking up sticks and doing all of the trimming and all of that kind of stuff. But lots of things have to happen before that's going to happen. A couple other things. What is that? Why did I put that on there? That doesn't make sense. What did I mean by that? Oh, I wasn't reading the whole thing. I'm sincerely looking at a list here of things that I need to do. And I said, repaint porch furniture. But all I saw was repaint porch. And I'm like, I don't have a porch that needs to be painted. If you look at this photo here, you see 4 pieces of furniture that are on the porch. Those are pieces of furniture that came with the house. 3 rocking chairs, 2 rocking chairs, a rocking bench, and then just a stationary bench. I'm going to be refinishing those very soon. At least my intent is to do it very soon. That'll be a video. I'm going to be repairing a bunch of windows. These are very, very old windows, probably original to the buildings that they're in. None of them are in the house, but there's 2 that are in my shed and 2 that are in my barn that need to be repaired, which need panes replaced and stuff like that. I think that's a really good video. For anybody that has old windows like that, I've done it before. It's a funny story. My oldest was like 14. So he was that rebellious teenager. He got mad one day because I don't know. I don't remember what it was. He might've been 15. So he walked into the room and he kicked his shoes off, and one of his shoes flew up and went right through the window. And so I was like, okay, as your punishment, you're going to fix that window, which really meant we were going to do it together. But we ended up cutting the glass and putting it in and glazing it and doing all of that. And it was kind of cool. Taught him a lesson, not only a lesson in, hey, dummy, don't kick your shoes through the window, but also how to fix a window. And so this was 12 years ago that happened. Actually, more than that. That would have been before Lisa and I even lived together. So that would have been like 2009 that happened. So 16 years ago. But he turned out okay. He's the one that has the 3 kids and is doing absolutely fantastic. He got a swimming pool put in at his house. He just got his basement finished. That kid is doing really, really well. Was also a Marine and served in Iraq. So yeah, super, super proud of him. But back then I was like, hey, guess who's fixing that window? You are. So I'll be doing that, not because somebody put their shoes through it, but because it needs to be done. I'll be showing that on video. I will be doing a really cool project that I'm really looking forward to. Fans of KG Tropicals, I shouldn't have said that. Followers, I don't like saying fans. Followers of KG Tropicals may recall when we bought this place and I had to rip out the floors of the store to turn it into the fish house. I saved a lot of the oak hardwood floors. They're not in good shape, and it was not easy to take them out without breaking them up, but I saved a lot of that. We're going to use that wood floor, but we're going to put it on the wall in our powder room. Just one wall. We made the decision to do that 3 years ago when we bought this property, and we haven't done it yet. But now that the kitchen is wrapping up, that powder room is attached to the kitchen. So that powder room is next. We'll put that up on the wall and it'll be very cool. I think it's, there's a lot of people, it's kind of trendy now to get like laminate floors, like the gray stuff. It looks really nice, and people glue that to the walls. This is going to be that, but doing it the right way. And I'm pretty sure the paperwork says it's 4,500 square feet. Oh, that's not 4,500 square feet. No way. This house is not it's 3,600 square feet. I know it. I'll fight you on that. But that's going to be really fun to do that, to put the wood up on the walls like that. I'm excited about that. I have a couple of videos that I'm going to do on tools for home renovations. What tools you should have, what tools you should avoid. It's on my list here, so that's why I brought it up. My original living room, in the very first video that I did on this channel, within the first few minutes, the first room that we go into when I do the little tour of this place is the original living room of this house. Still has the original front door, still has the original back door. I'm going to be redoing that room. That is the room that I know for a fact is going to have a bunch of surprises, and I'm not looking forward to that part. I have changed my mind as far as what I'm going to do in that room, and I've done it. There's probably people that would say what I'm going to do in that room is a disgrace, but it's my house, not yours. I think I'm going to do something radical in that room that will benefit the room immensely. The floor that's in that room is the original heart pine wide plank floors. I'm going to do one of two things. Actually, I'm telling you everything wrong right now. I don't even know why I'm saying this, because that's the one room I'm not going to do this on. Okay, so let me start over. This is why it's nice to not do these kind of things live. I made a decision when I refinished the floors in my kitchen. I said, never again. Never again will I do this. Instead, what I'm going to do is use the flooring that's already in these rooms as subfloor and put new floor right over top of it. Not carpet, but hardwood floors right over top of the wood that's already here, except for that room. And the reason why is because for that room, I do want to restore the wood that's on the floor now, but I'm going to do it very differently than what I did in the kitchen. That was the worst experience of my life. I'm not happy with the results. The longer we use that kitchen and the more times I walk into it, the unhappier I get. Is that a word? I don't know. The more frustrated I get with the results that I got. It's my fault. It's nobody else's fault. Just not happy. I might cover those floors up someday when Lisa's not looking and can't stop me. But with the living room, the main room in the house, my intent there is to almost do the same thing I'm going to do with the siding. Pull those floors up. They're all top nailed, so it'll be very easy to do. Famous last words. But pull those floors up and put subfloor down. There is no subfloor. Back when they built this house, they just put 3/4 inch heart pine flooring directly onto the floor joists, which is trifling. It's bad because the floors are old and it's a little spongy. I'm 220 something pounds. I walk through the room and pictures that are on the wall rattle. I mean, it's a whole thing. So pull those up, put the subfloor down, and then put the floors back down. But before I put them down, run them through my surface planer rather than sand them with one of those big dumb floor sanders. Why, I thought the floors came out great. Well, thank you, Joe. But you saw what I wanted you to see. We'll leave it at that. I mean, it's just, they don't look terrible. And probably anybody that comes into the room, including Lisa, loves it. But I don't. I'm happy. I'm not thrilled. I heard this term the other day and I love it. I think it makes so much sense. I'm not overwhelmed by the results. I'm just whelmed by the results. Uh, and you know, it's not high on the list, but I might cover those up. The floors that are in there are not historic to the house, so it wouldn't be a big deal. But other rooms like this one, the floors in here are the same way. Floor joists or hardwood floors put directly onto the floor joists, rather than pull these up, put subfloor down, and then refinish these and put them down. I'm just going to put new flooring right over top of it and use the floor that's here now as the subfloor. Probably people that would consider that an act of blasphemy, but that's what I'm going to do in this room. This is a small room. It's like, I don't know what size this room is. It looks bigger than it is because I'm actually sitting in the bay window looking out. So, you know, the room looks bigger than it is, but yeah, I mean, that's what I'm going to do. And there's a few other rooms. As far as the main house goes, the room in this house that has the flooring in the best condition, believe it or not, is Lisa's office, which is the mirror image of this room, but on the opposite side of the house. Her floors are in great shape. So they're probably the only floors I'm not going to have to do anything major with, but all of the other floors are going to need something, and I do not want to refinish floors again. I hate it. I'm not kidding you when I tell you that was the worst experience of my life. What is that? Removal of metal. Oh, yeah. Okay. I look at my list and I'm like, what am I talking about here? So again, if we look at this old picture of the barn, which I removed, that's my other camera angle. Hi. Where did that go? Let me find that. Here we go. So this is my barn, which I'm still using to this day. And you can see on that it has, again, wood siding. Well, that wood siding, just like on the house, has been covered up. Except that wood siding was not covered up with vinyl siding. It was covered up with metal siding, and it's that wavy, it doesn't look terrible, but it's that wavy siding. It's probably actually meant for roofing, but $3,900 to $4,100. That's according to the listing. Listen, Lisa, knock it off. We are not going to argue about the square footage of this house. I will put in a tape measure and I will measure every square inch. Anyway, Lisa actually has the brochure that was in the little box, or maybe it was sitting on the kitchen counter when we came to look at it, that has all the pictures and all the stuff on it. It's pretty cool. And she was showing me on there that it says 3,900. I'm going to maintain 3,600 square feet. But anyway, the metal, they covered it with metal roofing, basically, and then painted that metal roofing red. I want that off. I want to pull that off. The wood siding is still underneath it. And that wood siding doesn't have to be perfect. It's a barn. As long as it's structurally sound and there aren't boards falling off. If there's some falling off, I'd have to replace them. You know, it's fine. I want to take that off. I'll repaint it red. It was originally white. You can see it in that photo. But I do not want that ugly red barn roof siding nastiness. I don't want that on there anymore. That's going to probably be a fun project. And I think that will be done sooner rather than later, because it's not, again, famous last words, it's not as major of a project as it may seem, because it's all one wall. It's a big wall, but it's one wall. Rip all that siding down and then see what we're dealing with. Hopefully not have to replace the siding. I don't know that I'm going to go with like a hardy plank siding on a barn. I'd rather just fix up the siding that's already there and move on with it. But I think with the house, that is going to be way too much. So what else do we have? The front door. This is another one that bothers me every single day of my life. The front door on this house is original and it's not pretty. The paint is peeling. It's bad. But it's kind of overlooked because we don't use it. We come in and out through the side of the house. We don't come in and out through the front. So it just gets lost. And so I want to restore that. Again, that'll be a video. Not only that, but all the entire surround around it on the exterior. I want to do that. That's all going to be, that's going to be a fun project. Actually, that's right up there in my wheelhouse. And then I already talked about this before, but I have a brick lamp post on the entrance of my driveway that is leaning about 6 inches. I got to get that fixed up. That's going to be done very, very soon. And other than that, I mean, I've got a long list of just little things that need to be done that are annoying and bother me probably more than they bother anybody else. But yeah, we'll see. A local roll-off dumpster company will love you over the next 5 years. We already have one. In fact, you got to look real hard. But if you look at this drone footage, you can see it right next to the barns, blue. We got that delivered here as soon as we moved in, but it's for the business. But I can tell you this, the cabinets that I pulled out of the kitchen during my kitchen remodel, including the island cabinets, which I was going to salvage and put somewhere else, they all ended up in that dumpster. So it is convenient to have that dumpster. It's a small one. I don't know how many cubic yards it is, but it's one of the small dumpsters. They come every 2 weeks and they empty that. And so, yeah, we already got that covered. And there's been a lot of construction debris that has gone into that dumpster and then been taken away to the landfill because I'm not taking it to the dump. It's nice to just have that right there in the backyard and throw it away. It's convenient. But it's primarily for the business anyway. You order product from distributors and you get tons and tons and tons of little cardboard boxes that all have to go somewhere. That's what it's for. Plus our household trash and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, the dumpster was one of the very first things that we did. But I also forgot to mention a couple of more kind of minor things, but my side porch, which KG Tropicals followers will have seen this porch a lot because it's right next to our pond. I got to redo that too. The decking on that is all rotten and bad. So I got to redo that. I am going to redo that with composite. Looking forward to that. Not going to wait until I do the siding. That's going to be done probably soon. And that's a project that should be a weekend project, which means it'll take 3 or 4 weeks. But that's the plan there. And then I'm also going to be doing some small stuff like refinishing my dining room table that I built 23 years ago. It's cherry. I'm going to be refinishing that. So there's going to be such a variety of things that's going to go on this channel that are all, centered around the restoration of this house. But, it's fixing windows, it's fixing porches, it's restoring the original door on this. There's fixing a lamppost, pulling down old siding off of the barn and fixing up the old siding that's in that photo that I just showed you, and fixing up the shed, which as far as I know is another original structure to this property. All of those things, I'm excited about it because there's going to be such a wide variety of things that are going to get done on the Money Pit channel. I mean, that's what this channel is about. And at the end of the day, Joe Provenzano just sent in another $10. I'll read it in a second, Joe. But, I'm not doing this channel for money. That will happen just because that's what happens on YouTube. And I appreciate every single dollar, I promise. I'm doing it to document what we're doing so that whoever's problem this becomes down the road can always go to YouTube and watch this house and all of the things that get done to it. I just think that's cool. I can tell you, when we went to buy this house, if I had been able to watch a YouTube channel that showed what the lawyer did to this place for those 20 years that he owned, I'd have been glued to my computer screen watching that for hours and hours and hours and hours to know what was going on this property. But it doesn't exist. And so now me doing these things is going to make all of that exist. And I'm excited about that. And, like I've said, I don't beg anybody for money for anything, but just understand, if you do, like Joe Provenzano, Finsanity Aquatics has done multiple times in this stream, and others have, Dragon Dad was the first, any money that comes into this channel, that's what it's going towards, is that. So Finsanity said, I'm at work. A coworker walks behind me and says, how the bleep are you watching yourself? I'm a bald, gray bearded, little heavier though. They are all laughing their asses off. Little do you know, co-workers of Joe Provenzano, he wore a shirt very similar to this with my company logo on it in his wedding. Well, we shouldn't talk about that, right, Joe? But yeah, he's looked like me more than you know. I've seen those pictures. I know we are similar in appearance, but that's hilarious. Get back to work, Joe. I appreciate it, but get back to work. Your coworkers, now nobody's working at your job. Everybody's standing around watching this. I had to leave for an emergency situation. Did you answer my question? I don't know if I did or not. How do you know all these details about your property in the U.S.? In my country, you can add or remove almost any part of your property without asking permission from the government. I know you put up a couple more things too. I want to make sure that's the question you were looking to get the answer to. So I don't have to ask the government for permission to do things here. But we do have to get permits for major alterations that are done to a house. Major alterations would be, you're going to build a garage. You're going to build an addition onto the back of the house. You're going to put a porch on. You're going to build a deck in the back. Major alterations like that, you have to get permits. And those permits are basically a hassle, but they are so that the county officials can make sure that you are doing these projects up to code. You're not going to build something that's dangerous. You're not going to build something that's going to put somebody's life in danger because it's going to come crashing down or anything like that. They want to make sure you're following the county's structured code. And so that's what that is. How do I find out the details about my property? Word of mouth is where I've gotten so much of it from. I did, and I will tell all of you this. There are so many scams online that will tell you you've got access to all of these property records. And I fell for one of them. A while back, I was really getting into trying to learn the history of this property. And I went online and I was searching. I put my address in, and that's how I know you can find this place. I was trying to find any information I could about this place. And I came across a website that said, we've got all the answers. And I fell for it. And it's even worse than you would think. It was like $20, which isn't the end of the world. And they promised all this documentation. Basically, everything that's ever been filed with the county is going to show up here. All you got to do is pay this $20. So I did. And like 10 minutes later, I got my report. And my report literally had nothing on it. I shouldn't say literally. The only thing it had on it was all of the previously listed owners of the house, and their contact information for those that are still alive. And at the time, the lawyer was still with us. The family from California that I talked about earlier, I don't remember their names. It doesn't matter. And then the gentleman that bought it after it was foreclosed on, they were all listed on there with their contact information. And that actually worked out to be a really good thing. And it made it worth it to me to pay that $20 because I got an email address for that lawyer. I thought I knew his name, but I wasn't sure. I could have asked my neighbors and they would have known. They would have told me, and they would have probably given me his phone number. But I just didn't. And so I got his contact information. I emailed him that night. The very next morning, he emailed me back and said, yeah, that was me. And then we got together on the phone and spoke, and it was great. And so I was glad to get that information, but that's all the information that I got. And then like 4 months later, I was going through our online banking and I was like canceling things. Hulu, like I'm done watching Smallville. Like there's nothing on Hulu that I want to see. We're paying all this money and no more Hulu. I canceled DirecTV because I'm like, the price has tripled. And I was just going through canceling all these things. And I saw this charge for $20. And I was like, oh, that's that property records thing. But wait, that was like 4 months ago. So I clicked on that and I looked at the history. I didn't sign up just to $20 to get access to the county records. It was a monthly fee of $20. And I'm like, this is what I'm telling y'all. Don't fall for this nonsense. I feel like an idiot for falling for it. I paid $20 to get access to my records, which there are not very many. You sent me these. Our transaction is done. What do I need to pay $20 a month for? I was pissed. But, I checked the box or whatever. You got to watch that nonsense. If I canceled that, it's no big deal. It's not there anymore. But I ended up paying like $80 for this one piece of paper, and all it had was the information on it. But apparently, Real Madrid fan, any courthouse in the United States that has this documentation of all of these things, bye. My wife is looking at me through the window saying bye. I don't know where she's going, but I guess she's taking the orders to the post office. Apparently you can go to the courthouse and you can get documentation of all of those permits that have been applied for throughout the history of the property's existence. I have not done that. I don't know why I haven't done that. I honestly just don't know where to go to find out. And I just don't feel like dealing with it. But the courthouse right down the street, like it's not that big of a deal to go and do that, but I just haven't done it. Anyway, I'm rambling at this point. I could do this all day, believe me. But I appreciate y'all hanging out. It's been a lot of fun because I enjoy talking about this. As I said a couple of live streams ago, doing what we're doing here is what I've always dreamt of doing. So I am literally living the dream. I've said literally way too much in this video or this live stream, but I am living the dream. It's not getting done as quickly as I would like these things to get done because they all cost way more money than you expect. But I love it. I love doing what I'm doing, and I love documenting everything and showing it to all of y'all. We've had a couple of videos kind of pop off on this channel, which is really exciting and fun. Not videos that I would expect to pop off, but here we are. The coming weeks, I'm not done with the island cabinets yet. So there's going to be a little bit of a delay on the video for that, but I'm hoping to get the cabinets and everything built and done and get to the point where it's ready to finish. This weekend is what I'm hoping to have happen on the kitchen island. I'm building it in the back of my barn, And I'm doing that because it's been raining a lot. And the video is going to be the construction of those island cabinets and the installation and the finishing and all of that. And then the video after that will be the solid wood countertop for that island, which I'm so excited about. I cannot wait to do that. So those are going to be the next two videos. And then I'm going to take a break from the big major projects. It'll be a bit before I tackle another major one. I'm going to do a lot of those small projects that I just talked about. Building the new shed door, fixing the windows, fixing the lamppost. And I got a very special one for the 4th of July. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of really cool stuff happening. The videos will be a lot more consistent once the kitchen is done. And then it'll be a lot of fun. So I'm excited to show all of this to you, share all of this with you. It's a lot of fun. I really appreciate the support that's been shown to us already. It's wild that being in this channel's infancy, we already have channel members signing on. I believe, wasn't it Dragon Dad was the first channel member? I'm pretty sure I'm right there, aren't I? That was, let me think here. No, Don and Sharon Freilich. I'm sorry. Dragon Dad was the very first super chat. But we've had others, including Finsanity, become members again since then. And then the super chats today. Thank you, Joe, for that. Again, you know, anything that comes in is going towards all of these projects that I'm talking about. Right now, we're just paying for everything on our own, and we'll continue to do that unless, you know, money comes in. Then you'll know that that's where any of your funds are going that come in for that. So super excited about all of it, and don't really have anything more to say here today. Believe me, I got plenty to say, but I don't, you know, I got another live stream to do in just a few hours. So this has been a lot of fun. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you someday next week. You know, we'll have to see if we can narrow down a consistent time to do these live streams on the Money Pit. Maybe an evening each week or something like that we'll end up doing. Right there at the last minute, Hawk65 came in with the 99-cent super chat. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Again, you know where that money's going because I just explained it. I think it'd be nice to kind of narrow down the same time every week. I'm kind of trying different times with this live stream to see what works best for everybody. You know, we'll see. We'll come up with an actual official time and date at some point in the future. But anyway, I've talked enough. It's over. Thank you. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye.